Call of Duty has taken you to the front lines of World War II, but now it's time for something different. Gamehead presents the world-exclusive first glimpse at Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
This game has not yet been rated.
The trailer premieres tomorrow during the NFL Draft and at CharlieOscarDelta.com. If you combined Walt Disney and Steven Spielberg into one video game designer, the result would be Shigeru Miyamoto, the legendary creator of game franchises like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and his latest, Wii Sports. Over the next half hour, we're going to take you through the career of the man who not only revived the video game business in the mid-1980s, but who's still recruiting new gamers one Wiimote at a time. It's all right here on Gamehead's tribute to Shigeru Miyamoto.
Tonight on Gamehead, it's me, Mario, woohoo! And my favorite game designer, Shigeru Miyamoto, Papa, with a special tributes by Mega 64, Kotaku, and the Game Jew. I like that guy's outfit. Plus, Game Trailers goes to the I Am 8-Bit Art Gallery and downloads their top 3 videos of me, Mario, woohoo!
Good morning. Thank you for your kind welcome.
Shigeru Miyamoto is widely regarded as the most respected video game designer in the industry. He is the father of, I think, most people's video game playing experience.
He's responsible for what the video game industry is today. He pretty much started the way things are going right now.
He gave us the side-scroller, the 2D platformer, the 3D platformer.
People think, like, Mario, oh, he invented Mario. Well, that's great because it's an iconic figure, but that really just scratches the surface of what he actually has done for this industry.
Why don't you tell us a bit about your starting days at Nintendo?
Right around the time that I joined the company, Space Invaders was extremely popular. And so they ended up putting me on the task of drawing pixel art for some of the early video games that they were working on. But we ended up with a game that had been developed that ended up not selling very well in the arcades. And so we had a lot of extra units laying around that we needed to figure out what we were going to do with. And so someone approached me and said, we need to create a game to use up these arcade machines that haven't sold well. So why don't we work on this together? And so I started by kind of drawing the art for my game and working as a director on it. And that game turned into Donkey Kong, which ended up selling rather well and led to my career that I have today.
From my understanding, essentially pre-Nintendo, this guy, I mean, he sounds like he was not exactly like the top of the class. You know what I mean? I hate to say it because obviously he's a genius. But, you know, he started out and, like, his father got him a job at this place, you know, and they kind of, like, gave him this project that it sounds like nobody else would do. It was almost like he was waiting for video games to come along to give his life a purpose.
After the success of Donkey Kong in the arcade, Shigeru soon helped revive the U.S. gaming industry when the Nintendo Entertainment System warp-zoned its way into America's households.
You really could argue that Miyamoto and Nintendo single-handedly brought back the U.S. video game industry. I mean, in 1983, there was a huge crash. The industry was declared dead. It was a fad. It was another pet rock. It was another hula hoop. When Nintendo released the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985 in America, which came bundled with the first Mario game, within 5 years, 1 in 4 American households had purchased this system.
How would the industry have done without Miyamoto? Well, it would have lacked its biggest icons. It would have lacked Super Mario. It would have lacked Zelda. It would have lacked Donkey Kong. And by not having those games that people were able to fall in love with and really develop a connection to, it just would have been, you know, another appliance industry.
You know, a lot of people talk about Miyamoto's work and the same things keep getting brought up, Pikmin 1, Pikmin 2, but what people don't realize is he brought us the greatest racing simulator ever created, Wave Race 64.
If you ask a person to name 3 geniuses, they will probably say Albert Einstein, Michael Jordan, Emily Dickinson. What did Michael Jordan or Albert Einstein ever do that was better than Wave Race 64?
Nothing. I've been known to dabble in some Wave Race fan art now and then.
Shigeru Miyamoto? I guess you can say we're a fan.
Okie dokie. Next on Gamehead, Miyamoto tells us what Nintendo character he can most relate to. I wonder if it's a me. Mario. Game Trailers goes to the I Am 8-Bit Art Gallery, and still to come, Geoff and Shigeru play a little game. Mamma mia! Woohoo!
It's time for the UView Question of the Week. Miyamoto has brought a countless list of memorable characters to the gaming world, but who's his greatest creation? Mario, Link, Donkey Kong, or Pikmin? Be sure to place your vote at gamehead.spiketv.com. Hey, welcome back to Gamehead. This week, we're taking you through the career of one of the gaming industry's most innovative creators, Shigeru Miyamoto. From 8-bit graphics to one-handed controllers, this is our tribute to one super designer.
There is something, but I don't know that you can define it. It's just something that when you see a Miyamoto's creation or a Miyamoto game, you know that he was behind it.
What's great about Mario, what's great about Link, what's great about Donkey Kong is what Miyamoto had you do with them.
There was a study in 1990 when the NES had only been out in America for 5 years, and already American school children were recognizing Mario before they recognized Mickey Mouse.
Mario, in some ways, has already achieved more than Mickey Mouse has ever achieved, and Mario's done it in a much shorter period of time. Where Mickey Mouse went from being a character in the cartoons that you watched, Steamboat Willie and early Disney cartoons, to being just a corporate mascot, just a corporate icon.
I know!
Mario, he stands for a certain experience, a certain joyful way of playing a video game.
Which Nintendo character do you think is most similar to your personality out of all the characters you've created?
Well, I'm a very serious person, so I don't really think any of the Nintendo characters match my personality, but I always have thought that it would be nice if I could be a little bit more like Mario.
How would you be more like Mario?
I suppose I'd have to grow a mustache.
Mustache? Get your overalls on, right? Start jumping around.
I have overalls.
As memorable as his characters are, they don't hold a note without those classic sounds. And as Steven Spielberg has John Williams, Shigeru Miyamoto has his own melodious wingman, Koji Kondo, a Japanese musician who's composed the soundtracks of the majority of Miyamoto's games. What's it like working with Mr. Miyamoto? Do you consider him one of your closest friends?
Well, Mr. Miyamoto he's my boss. And he's watching over me like a hawk. You know, the one time that he actually came in and told me that he thought I had done something extraordinary was in Mario 64 in the volcano stage. There's a piece of music in there that I composed that he actually came in and said, hey, this was really creative and well done. Well, I think something that people probably don't realize that would surprise them is that no matter the age Mr. Miyamoto has become and the lack of sleep, I mean, he doesn't sleep, but he still has so much fun. He's so filled with energy. I think that would really surprise people.
Is he always happy? He's always smiling? Even when he's walking around the office? He's doing nice.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I'm on location at the I Am 8-Bit Art Exhibit in Los Angeles. Every year, artists from around the globe come here to show off their 8-bit inspired artwork at Gallery 1988, and Mario is always a popular choice. We talk to the artists to see how Miyamoto's creations have inspired them. Now, inside the exhibit, you, of course, see a huge Miyamoto influence. Did you play Miyamoto games growing up?
We were a Nintendo household. We had the Sega Master System, but we traded it in for the Nintendo, and we very much became addicted to Mario.
Zelda and Mario and Donkey Kong are just, they're it.
I work in animation, and Miyamoto is really influenced by animation. And then, when I was a kid, I liked Mario, and then when I found out, what his inspirations were, it was we're the same thing, you know?
Miyamoto is the man. I mean, he's a god to all of us because, I mean, the characters are so much fun to play with, but they're just endearing. They just last forever, and I'll probably be happy to have one of his characters put on my gravestone.
Miyamoto's just a genius. He's just a total genius. He's awesome. He's amazing.
Well, it's time for me to do some shopping, but if you want to find out how you can get your hands on one of these fine pieces of art, make sure you check out iam8bit.net, and for complete coverage of the show, go to GameTrailers.com. I'm Amanda McKay. I'll see you next time.
Okie dokie. Coming up next on Gamehead, we explore the many innovations Miyamoto has brought to the gaming industry. Kotaku gives their take on Miyamoto, and still to come, Shiggy proves that he really truly is a banjo hero. Yippee!
Remember rushing home from the bus stop on Fridays to see Link or doing the Mario in your living room? Now you can relive those experiences with the release of The Legend of Zelda, Captain N the Game Master, and the Super Mario Bros. Super Show on DVD. For a chance to win a set of all three, head to SpikeTV.com. Hey, welcome back to Gamehead. Tonight, we're continuing our look into the mind of Mario with Gamehead's tribute to Shigeru Miyamoto. You hear so many other game designers talk about how they're inspired by your games. What do you hope that other designers take from the way you design games?
Really what I want to see is I want to see game designers and game developers, instead of focusing on trying to recreate the games we've already seen, I want to see them bring their own unique ideas to video gaming and find a way to turn those ideas into new and creative video games that we haven't seen before.
You know, people talk about Miyamoto as an innovator, and people talk about what's so great about him, but if you look at the actual games, and if you didn't know, you might wonder, okay, well, what is it?
They showed that video games could be a lot different. They could be more than just one screen and repeated actions over and over again.
So Super Mario Brothers was the first side scroller. Legend of Zelda was the first open roaming world environment. You know, without Legend of Zelda, would there be Grand Theft Auto? You know, I mean, that he introduced that concept.
The Grand Theft Auto series, they wouldn't seem to have much in common with a Mario brother, but you realize that they actually borrow a lot from the work of Miyamoto, all the way from using prostitutes as a power-up to this idea that it's essentially a little universe that you can play with.
So the Legend of Zelda cartridge also actually had a battery in it that apparently lasted 10 years, and it would allow you to save your spot in the games. I mean, that was huge for the industry. I doubt Miyamoto was the one who said, like, we could put a battery in. But Miyamoto essentially came up with a game that was so big, I mean, that they had to build technology that would change the industry in order to make his game work.
I think Miyamoto's hallmark is that his games are the games that you never needed an instruction manual for. You can sit somebody down in front of a Miyamoto game, and probably you have better odds than you will with just about any other game that they'll be able to figure it all out themselves. He always wanted to make his games accessible. Some people call that kiddie because his games, for the most part, look juvenile. I'd say what he's always gone for is clarity.
I think there's a certain amount of irony now to look at how well the Wii is doing. That, you know, people thought that the video game industry was going to move beyond and leave Miyamoto behind, but I think what you're seeing is that he always said he was taking his own path, and his own path has sort of ended up coming out quite nicely.
Miyamoto's path has led Nintendo to great success with the Wii and DS, but we decided to turn the tables on Miyamoto and have him play one of our games. Now, Mr. Miyamoto, we have a little game we wanted to play with you. It's a word association game. We have a bunch of pictures here to see if there's one word that comes to mind when you pick some of these images. Oh, the Wii 60 family. Have you heard about this? The picture of, this is Reggie, and they have you down here. The Addams family. This is the idea of people picking, buying the Nintendo Wii and the Xbox 360 together. You're down here, and Bill Gates from Microsoft.
This looks to me like it would be an expensive game to make.
You know who this is? She's playing a Nintendo DS. Paris Hilton is her name.
I'm just glad to see so many different people own our products. This is Brian Crescenti, editor of Kotaku, and this is Kotaku on Shigeru Miyamoto. He's the first guy I ever interviewed that I actually asked to have my photo with.
I actually met him at the Nintendo World store about a year and a half ago. Really nice guy, just signed autographs for something like 3 or 4 hours.
He really brought back video games at a point where they were starting to fade away.
You look at him and he is truly excited about the product he is working with.
Even games that he doesn't directly work on, games that he's kind of just involved with, they're kind of like a Miyamoto game.
He's a kid who's looking at the industry through the eyes of a child and seeing what excites him and creating that. He's goofy. He's goofy as all get out, but he's like a big kid.
You'll talk about guys like Will Wright or Peter Molyneux or Kojima, but I think Miyamoto more than anyone else. I mean, his track record speaks for himself. I suspect that he can both speak and understand English fluently, though in interviews he has his translator translate his answers. I think that's him being tricky.
Thank you for a very good time last night.
Coming up next on Gamehead, Miyamoto talks about the games he would like to make, and finally plays a little music. Yippee!
Mario is easily one of the most popular characters for over a quarter of a century now, and he's not slowing down. So let's take a look at the 3 most popular Mario games on GameTrailers.com. Fans can't get enough of the recently released Super Paper Mario, and it's been topping the charts with over 1.6 million downloads. Ever since its surprise debut at E306, fans have been clamoring for more footage of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and they've downloaded the 3 trailers an impressive 1.6 million times. With 1.2 million downloads for the planet-hopping Super Mario Galaxy, it looks like Mario will continue to be a star for light years to come. Want to see the full versions of any of these videos? Well, make sure to check out GameTrailers.com right now.
From side-scrollers to 3D and now the Wii, what's next? Find out now as we conclude Gamehead's tribute to Shigeru Miyamoto.
It's funny because I grew up playing Miyamoto's games, but I didn't even realize that one person had made like all of my favorite games. And it wasn't until I read this article in Wired and they were talking about Miyamoto, it's just like, yeah, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Mario, Star Fox, Pikmin. I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was just completely unfathomable that one person had done all of that. So I wrote him a song and I sang it to him. And now his games are like little moments in time, captured in my mind, oh, Miyamoto.
When people think of the name Miyamoto, which game do you hope that they remember first as their favorite game that Mr. Miyamoto has created?
Well, generally I think the answer would be Mario, but right now I think I really want people to focus on Wii Sports.
Play with your son and your daughter and your wife? Do all 4 of you ever play Wii Tennis together?
Yes, we do. And we invite our neighbors over and we all play together.
How do I get an invite to Mr. Miyamoto's house to go play with the Wii with Wii Tennis, right?
We know all you game heads out there are Miyamoto fanboys, but can the average person even recognize Shigeru Miyamoto's face?
No idea.
I don't know his name.
I should. No.
He's a game designer for... Which company was it? Yeah, that's the president of Nintendo. I think it was EA or something like that. Miyamoto? Is that right?
It's Mario.
That's Mario. That's Mario.
Mario.
Oh, that's Mario.
Why I don't know the creator of Mario. Maybe he's not videogenic or something. I don't know.
The video game industry is very different than film or other industries because the household names that people love are the characters. So everybody knows Mario, but everyone might not know Miyamoto.
Video game creators don't have their names on the boxes for the most part. Miyamoto has created many more classic experiences than a lot of movie directors whose names you do know. And so that's the nature of being a great video game creator.
I think we're at the beginning of a new analogy where future geniuses may someday be lucky enough to be considered the Shigeru Miyamoto of their field.
What future games may help Miyamoto become a household name? He's currently working on the Wii title Super Mario Galaxy, which Nintendo promises will be out by the end of the year. But that can't be the only game he's got in the pipeline. We asked a few questions that may have led to a Gamehead scoop.
Is there any games that in the past that you remember that you might have started on but you never got to finish, or other games that you wanted to make but you weren't able to make?
One good example would be a game that we had been working on for the Super NES called Star Fox 2. It's a sequel to the original Star Fox. And while we worked on that game for quite a while, it ultimately got put on the pending list, so to speak. We have been looking at ways to maybe try to bring a project like that back to life, and been looking at what we could do with that on the Nintendo DS.
Were it not not for Mario being bundled with the very first Nintendo Entertainment System, it's hard to imagine that it would have had the kind of success it's had. And a lot of times, certainly gamers don't always realize that Miyamoto is really one of the top managerial position at Nintendo now. Very little happens in that company that he doesn't have some say in, that still doesn't carry that Miyamoto spirit, or whatever you want to call it.
People often wonder, well, why aren't they competing with Microsoft and Sony to have more and more powerful machines? Well, the reason is that they have a creative genius who can ensure that they have great games in spite of having, second to best technology.
But this is a company that has always put its characters, its experiences, and the fun of those experiences first. And when you say, okay, well, who's doing that first at Nintendo? Who's getting it right first at Nintendo? You look back and that was Miyamoto plugging away on the Donkey Kong machine, making sure that you had a fantastic time.
Thank you very much. Why don't you play us out? That's it for this week's Game Head, but make sure to tune in next week for all the latest video game news, reviews, and previews. I know the game. Do you? Play us off, Mr. Miyamoto.
Okie dokie. This episode of Gamehead will be available tomorrow on SpikeTV.com for your viewing pleasure. Princess Peach and I are gonna watch it again. Woohoo!